everybody, Pen here with Yoga Sizes. This is actually the second part of Landon Stacy's interview. I interviewed him back in March. That was before the pandemic happened. And just let me do a little bit of an introduction and I'll let him continue from here. This was the first part of this interview with Brock, episode 111. And he shared his experience of how he started with his yoga studio, how he became an owner and a lead teacher there. And he was teaching at the studio. He does teacher trainings. It was doing really great. And then this pandemic started, lockdown started. He had to stop, servicing his clients at his studio, and then he has to transition to teaching online. And that interview was very popular. With over 100 unique downloads since the pandemic started. So I said, I have to invite you back, Landon, and thank you for doing this for the second time with us and sharing what's going on since the pandemic started and how you transitioned from working on a studio and then start teaching using Zoom.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll get started. And if you haven't watched episode 111 yet or listen to it, I'll put the link in the description or in the comments below, and then you're able to get access to the first part of the interview. So in the first part of the interview, we talked about, like I said, about his story, his experience of how he got started with teaching yoga, and then he also shared some of his book recommendations, and so we'll continue from there. So how have you been? Like, what's going on since this whole thing started?
I've been good. I sort of feel like I've completely flipped my business plan on its side to accommodate for this pandemic. We have changed so many things since this whole thing started. We had closed down, I think the first official day that we closed down was March 21st. And our local level government, so in our town, they implemented something for all non-essential businesses to shut down completely. So they implemented that, I think, about a week after we had closed our doors. And then on a state level, they also kind of implemented their own guidelines as well. So we're just trying to follow along as best as we can with what guidelines they're giving us, because, of course, we don't want to be out of compliance. So we've been listening pretty closely with those things. Since we shut down on March 21st, we haven't had anybody in the studio aside from myself. And then there was one time that I had like a professional cleaning company come in. But other than that, it's just been me in the studio. And we've transitioned all of our classes. So we do 16 classes a week, and we transitioned them all online into Zoom. And then we've also been offering a video on demand service. So anybody who can't catch the live videos or who wants to watch them again, they can subscribe to our video on demand library and either subscribe for the month, or they can rent videos, they can buy the videos. So basically, we're trying to help people who don't have a lot of time, because I know that right now working from home has its own set of challenges. And one of the big ones is giving people time to even enjoy a yoga class.
Yeah, that's so true. It's been pretty hectic over here too. So with this transition, how is the attendance going? Like, people might say they can attend and they RSVP. Are they really showing up? Well, how many percent of the people are actually showing up live, and how many of them are actually catching the replay?
So I would say our attendance is pretty low for live, and I understand why. Because I think a lot of things can come up in your day-to-day, especially right now where we're kind of always, quote unquote, on call. Your job is constantly kind of asking things from you, and then your family is, around. And if you're homeschooling kids at home, it's going to take up a lot of time. So I completely understand the limitations that we have for reaching people live. And that's really why I wanted to implement this video on demand for our customers and our students, so that we could kind of help them with whatever time challenges that they're facing. And sometimes you only have 20 minutes to jump in on a yoga class. So I just wanted to make sure that we could really serve everybody.
That's so true. And I remember when I interviewed you the first part, and you're talking about how your view on online teaching, and you said you weren't really fond of it at that time. And how do you see this teaching online? Has it changed your view on teaching online? And would you, once everything opens up, everything goes back to normal, would you still continue some of the classes online as well?
Yeah, so we had thought about doing online teaching. It was just sort of like a spark that we were thinking of doing at some point, and then the pandemic happened, and I kind of knew from there we had to fast track this really, really quickly. So from the first day that we shut down, we were already online. So we wasted no time in getting ourselves on online classes. We didn't miss any classes between closing down and then being on Zoom. It was very, very like integrated together. Um, so I feel like we picked up really quickly on that and understanding the technology and getting all of our students up to date on the technology as well to make sure that they can use it as well. So that's been really important. My view of online classes and teaching has changed a lot. I I understand its own limitations because we can't always see our students and we're not interacting in the way that we normally do when we're teaching classes in a studio. So that's been a little bit frustrated because we can't do hands-on adjustments. We can't necessarily see people and adjust their alignment and things like that. And a lot of people like to shut their camera off when they do yoga at home, and I understand that. So it has definitely changed the way that we teach yoga, and we're also not walking around the room like we typically do in our studio. So we've really had to sort of relearn how to teach yoga to this new platform. But I think going forward, we probably will be providing some sort of online yoga. I've already been looking into different cameras that we can set up inside of the studio to continue to provide yoga, because I know this isn't something that's going away anytime soon. And we're probably looking at uh, expanding our online gallery to people who maybe aren't even local. A lot of the people who joined us for our online studio have been people who moved away or who don't live near the studio, who couldn't attend a regular local class. So we've been really able to expand our reach out to all of those people as well.
That's awesome. You actually answered some of my questions in terms of how you transition and the pros and cons of doing this online versus in a studio. Uh, so, let's start with the challenges that you have to go through during this transition. What are some of the tough challenges that you have to do, and how do you deal with the challenges?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is just not being in studio with people right now. That's really hard. It's something that I completely took for granted when we were open. It's really hard to not have the banter with people that we usually have during yoga classes and to not be able to easily adjust them. Now, when we're teaching and we're trying to offer modifications or variations, you kind of just have to go through like the glossary in your head of what the modifications are. You're not really basing them on what you see in front of you the way that we normally do when we teach. So that's been challenging. Um, it's also been challenging because I find myself being like tech support a lot. So a lot of people are calling me saying that they can't get online with Zoom, and I'm always answering the phone to like those questions and trying to make sure that I'm always kind of available to get everybody on the same page. So that's been a little bit frustrating. Uh, and then other challenges are sort of looking into the future. So trying to figure out what our reopening plan is. And I have some ideas. We've started doing like curbside pickup here for our props. We've been selling all of our retail stuff, curbside pickup, trying to, get people kind of engaged as much as we can with our studio and also providing them with as much value as we can at home. So a lot of people don't have blocks and straps and things at home. So we just want to make sure that everybody's prepared to take our classes for as long as they need to online. Some of the pros, though, have been bigger than the cons. We've been able to reach a lot further than we were. Before, we were probably accommodating to about 10 miles around our studio. Now we're reaching people in other states, people who have never been to a yoga class before because they weren't comfortable coming into a studio have been able to join us, which has been great. And we've been able to really expand our community, which is really our mission all along, to help as many people as we can.
That's awesome. And I think also with the increasing views on that particular episode that we did, I think that brought more awareness too for people to check out what's going on with your studio now, and if you're offering online classes.
Yeah. Yep. So we're offering online classes. You can check them out at emeraldyoga.com. We have the two options right now. So number one is our live stream package. And then we also have our video on demand package that includes the live stream. And then we're doing sort of a mission project right now, which I'm really proud of. And because Massachusetts has one of the largest amount of hospitals and really, really great healthcare, we wanted to give back to them. So all frontline workers who are, in the middle of this pandemic and striving for any relaxation, we're giving them free access to all of our yoga videos to watch anytime that they want. And that's on our website as well, so that any healthcare workers, any people who are still 100% full-time working who need relaxation, we're giving it to them for free.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for providing that. So now my question is, you mentioned, offering free services for people. And I know some yoga teachers are just not charging at all during this time. So how do you feel about not basically charging at all and not making any income during this time?
I think it kind of depends. So we still have our brick and mortar studio to support. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to secure any funding for our studio. So all of our bills are still rolling in the same way that they were, even when we've been closed. So we're still supporting, the overhead of the studio.